My name is Laurie Bassart, and this is my son Corey. Corey is 31 years old and he is autistic. I'm not really going to do a demonstration with Corey today. I'm just going to talk to you, and so Corey's just going to sit here and be eye candy. Is that okay with you, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. What I want to talk to you about today is tantrums in public. And the first thing I want to say is I'm the go-to expert when it comes to dealing with tantrums in public because I've dealt with so many of them. To learn how to effectively deal with a tantrum in public, it's important that you first learn how to deal with a tantrum in the privacy of your own home. And one very effective tool that we have for dealing with tantrums in the home is with a timeout. And I have an article on how to do timeout. It's on my home page, and I'll refer you to that. But for the sake of review, I'm going to go over it with you here today. Forgive me for preaching at you for just a minute here, but I think that parenting styles have gotten way too permissive today, and I know I sound like an old school dinosaur for saying that,
No.
but that's just kind of how I see it. And in general, I think it's a bad thing, but conceivably you can get away with being a permissive parent with a regular kid that's not autistic, and they can still grow up to be a well-adjusted, good citizen. Although I think it's iffy. I think kids need discipline. But you cannot get away with being a permissive parent with an autistic child. You have to learn to discipline them. You have to learn to be firm and give them consequences for their actions, because if you don't, not only will they make your life miserable, but they will end up failing. If you have a very high-functioning autistic child who's really smart, maybe it's more of an Asperger's type situation, if their behaviors are out of control, it makes their intelligence irrelevant. So you have to learn to discipline them and give them consequences for their actions, because their success depends on it. In my opinion, there are only 3 reasons to do timeout with your autistic child, and those 3 reasons are tantrums, aggression, or deliberate destructiveness. And that's pretty much it in my book. If you are dealing with other behavior problems like non-compliance, there's other ways of dealing with that behavior. In fact, I have a compliance training video if you need help with non-compliant behavior. Okay, let's talk about the antecedent. The antecedent is what occurs just prior to the tantrum happening that causes the tantrum to occur. And there's just one thing I want to say about the antecedent, and that is 99% of the time it's irrelevant. Your child is having a tantrum for one of 2 reasons. They're either not getting their way about something, or you're placing a demand on them. And the reason that I say the antecedent is irrelevant is it is not appropriate to try to remove the antecedent to try to prevent the tantrum from happening. For example, if your child's having a tantrum because you're making them brush their teeth, well, I'm sorry, they still got to get their teeth brushed. Or if they're having a tantrum because they want to have candy and cookies and soda for breakfast, well, I'm sorry, they still can't have those things for breakfast, or at least they shouldn't have. But my point is, it's not appropriate to try to remove the antecedent to try to prevent the tantrum from happening. Okay, let's talk about the timeout place. I prefer to do timeout on the floor and in a corner, kind of like right here, and that way you can have good containment and good control. And I'm going to go through exactly how to do timeout with you right now, step by step. Okay, it's game time. Let's say your child has just done one of the 3 behaviors. They've either had a tantrum, been aggressive, or been deliberately destructive. The first thing that you do is you walk quickly and decisively over to your child. You take them by the hand while simultaneously giving them a no. And it should sound kind of like this. No, no tantrums, no, kind of like that. Not shouting and angry, but just kind of firm and in control. Then you walk quickly and decisively back to the timeout corner and you get your child seated. If they will not sit willingly, it's okay to kind of scoop their legs to get them seated, or you can pull down on their arms to get them seated. That's okay. Get them seated. After they're seated in timeout, you stand there and you monitor the timeout. If they try to stand up, you can push down quickly on their shoulders to keep them seated. Or if they're trying to wiggle out of timeout, you can just kind of move in a little bit closer like that to keep them contained. Then you stand there and you monitor the timeout until your child is completely calm for at least 2 minutes. If it takes them 20 minutes to calm down, then it's a 22-minute timeout. I've done a lot of 20-minute timeouts. I've done some 45-minute timeouts. And on this point, it's important that you are 100% confident that your child is in fact calm. If you dismiss your child from timeout and they have another tantrum pretty quickly afterwards, it means you let them up too soon. So after you are 100% confident that your child is in fact calm, you praise your child and you say, good job of calming down, good job, I like it a lot. Now there's just one little small little task you should do with your child before you dismiss them from timeout. According to textbook ABA therapy, ABA stands for Applied Behavioral Analysis, you should really do one very low-level, small demand with your child. What I normally do with Corey is I bring him back to the table and I have him do a little table drill, just like 2 or 3 minutes at the most. Something super easy. If you don't want to do a table drill, you can maybe have your child pick up 6 toys for 1 minute or something. And the purpose of this is, it's a test to make sure that not only is your child calm, but now they can even tolerate a tiny bit of frustration. And it just kind of makes, ensures that your child is in fact ready to carry on the rest of the day. After you've done your little 1 to 2 minute task, then you praise your child, and then you can dismiss your child from timeout and say, good job of calming down, you can go play. And then, you know, just kind of continue to watch your child for the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes and praise them every few minutes for being calm, being calm. Just want to encourage you parents to be consistent. Perfecting timeout is a process, and you may have a few disasters on your hands before you get your technique down perfectly. That's okay, you'll get better with practice. And this is going to sound kind of weird, but your child will also get better with practice. They'll get better at tolerating timeout and knowing what's expected of them in timeout. So just be consistent, you'll get better with practice. Okay, we're ready to talk about what to do about a tantrum in public. And it's actually not that much different than dealing with a tantrum at home, and it's actually not that much harder than dealing with a tantrum at home, and that's because all the same rules apply. The same 3 reasons that you would do a timeout at home, which are tantrums, aggression, or deliberate destructiveness, also call for a timeout in public. Yes, you heard me correctly. I'm talking about doing a timeout in public, but don't be scared. I'm going to coach you through it step by step. The antecedent, or the reason why your child has a tantrum in public, is the same 2 reasons why they have a tantrum at home. They're either not getting their way about something, or you're placing a demand on them. And just like at home, it's not appropriate to try to remove the antecedent to try to prevent the tantrum from happening. The same holds true in public. But it is trickier in public. And that's because if you take your child to the grocery store, for example, there's all this candy and cookies and soda and ice cream and all these things that your child is going to want that could conceivably trigger a tantrum. And as a parent, it's kind of easy to cave in and say, oh, please don't have a tantrum, please don't have a tantrum, I'll give you the candy, I'll give you the candy. Don't have a tantrum here in public, because dealing with a tantrum in public is embarrassing. But the reason you don't want to do that is it reinforces that bad behavior, and you will end up seeing an increase in the frequency of tantrums. And you will also end up seeing an increase in the intensity of tantrums. There's an expression that says, the more you appease a tyrant, the more of a tyrant they become. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea and think I'm the meanest mom in the world. If Corey has good behavior in the store, he gets whatever he wants. He's completely spoiled rotten. He'll grab a bag of chips and open them up and start eating them in the store like he owns the place. So if your child's having good behavior in the store, it's perfectly fine to spoil them and indulge them. You just spoil away, that's fine. Okay, the timeout place in public. In a nutshell, what you want to look for is just a discreet place to do timeout. One very easy discreet place to do timeout in public is just to take your child back to your car. And I'm going to tell you about a textbook perfect timeout I did with Corey one time out in the car when he was about maybe 7 years old, I think. I took him to the bank, and Corey does not like to wait in line. And we were waiting in line at the bank, and I looked down, and he's making a mean face. And I think, uh-oh, here comes a tantrum. Well, sure enough, just then, he roars like a monster. Well, it's embarrassing. Everybody's looking at us. Everybody knows I have a special needs child. But I did a textbook perfect timeout. I grabbed his little hand, and I marched his little butt out to the car. And I put him in the back seat of the car, and he was contained, and I monitored him there for about maybe 15 minutes. And as soon as I was confident he was calm, I praised him and said, good job of calming down. Let's go back in the bank. We went back in the bank. We waited in line for maybe 2 minutes. at the most, and he was fine. He was a perfect angel. He did just fine. Okay, let's talk about what to do about a tantrum in public when you're not close enough to get back to your car. You know, when Corey, in a nutshell, like I said, you want to look for a discreet place to do timeout. When Corey was younger and having a lot of tantrums, I got so that every time I took him any place, I would kind of quickly scan the room and kind of plan ahead in my mind where I would take him if I had to do a timeout with him. And you'd be surprised, a lot of times there would be a good discreet corner over in that direction or a remote corner over in that direction. It actually really isn't that hard. I don't think I was ever stumped that I couldn't find a place to do timeout with Corey when I absolutely had to. Let's say that you are on the 7th floor of an office building, and so you obviously can't get back to your car, but perhaps you can just go out in the hallway and it's more private out there to do a timeout. Also, there's flexibility with the place you do timeout when you're in public. If you can't find the ideal corner to do timeout on the floor, perhaps you can do timeout just up against a flat straight wall, still on the floor, but just up against a flat straight wall. And as long as you're kind of hovering over your child, you should still have good containment and good control. Or if there's a corner over in this direction, but there's a chair there, you can do timeout in the chair. That's okay. As long as you're hovering over your child, you should still have good containment and good control. So after you find a discreet place to do timeout, all the same rules apply. You keep your child there until they're calm for at least 2 minutes. And then you praise your child and you say, good job of calming down. And then you just kind of go back to doing whatever task you were doing before the tantrum occurred. And just like at home, you monitor them for the next 20, 30 minutes and praise them every few minutes for good being calm. Okay, I want to talk about your attitude and your demeanor and your comportment while you're dealing with a tantrum in public. When people see your special needs child having a tantrum in public, it scares them and it kind of makes people nervous. And so it's important that you act with confidence, like you know what you're doing and you've got things under control, and that kind of puts people at ease. One of the things that kind of helps me is in my head, I kind of morph into the professional behavior specialist, and I'm in control, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm the professional, and I've got things under control. I'm going to tell you about a tantrum I dealt with in Walmart. This was just maybe about 4 years ago. Corey was about 27. And we shopped around Walmart for about an hour, which was maybe a little bit too long for Corey. And then we went to wait in line. And he does not like to wait in line. And I look over at him and he has got an intense mean face. And I think, no way is he going to be able to hang paying for these groceries. So I left my cart of groceries there and I coaxed Corey past the lady that was in front of me. And then directly in front of me was the wall. And then there just happened to be these 2 big stainless steel freezers that they keep the bags of ice in. And it created the perfect alcove to do timeout. And so I told Corey, sit down. And he sat down and then he proceeded to have a monster tantrum. He roared like a monster on and off for about 2 minutes. And it's a very public tantrum. Everybody's looking at us. Everybody can see us. But I had already morphed into the professional behavior specialist. And I was on duty. And I had things under control. And I didn't take my eyes off of Corey. Well, pretty soon, I noticed out of the corner of my eye 2 security guys standing beside me. But I didn't even look at them. And I didn't even talk to them or anything. And because I was on duty, I was watching Corey. Well, after about 5 minutes, Corey calmed down a little bit. And I looked over at him and they said, do you need any help? And I said, I don't think so. I got him contained. I'm just going to keep him here until he's calm. It might take about 20 minutes. Well, they walked away and left me there. But what that said to me is that they had enough confidence in me that I knew what I was doing, that I could handle the situation and take care of things with Corey. So after about 5 more minutes, Corey calmed down completely. And I said, good job of calming down. You're doing so much better. Let's go pay for the groceries. And we went back and paid for the groceries, and he did just fine. He was a perfect angel. Okay, I want to talk about one more technique that does not involve a timeout. And I use this technique both at home and in public, and I use it when Corey's kind of edgy and borderline and kind of threatening to have a tantrum. And it works especially well when Corey wants something. And what I do is I kind of have a repetitious conversation with Corey where I tell him that I'll make a deal with him. If he can calm down, he can earn whatever treat or soda it is that he wants. And this is kind of how the conversation goes. Say we're in the grocery store and Corey wants a Diet Coke. He likes Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi. He'll when he's having this behavior, he'll kind of go, "Want Coke? Want Coke? Want Coke?" And he's hyperventilating. He's kind of agitated and he's kind of edgy and threatening to have a tantrum. And what I'll do is I'll stop and I'll talk to him and I'll say, "What do you need to have to get a Coke?"
Good behavior.
Good behavior. And
no tantrums.
No tantrums. That's right. So I'm going to be watching you. What do you need to have to get a Coke?
Good behavior.
Good behavior and
no tantrums.
No tantrums. That's right. So I'm watching you to see what I'm going to watch you for a few minutes and see if you can calm down nicely. What do you need to have to get a Coke?
Good behavior.
Good behavior and
no tantrums.
No tantrums. And I'll have this repetitious conversation with Corey for about 5 minutes usually. Sometimes even 10 depending on how he's doing.
No.
But honestly, most of the time when I do this technique with Corey, almost immediately he starts to try to calm himself down. He tries to start using self-control because he knows that he's the one who's responsible for whether or not he's going to earn that Coke or not. And then, so after I'm 100% confident that he has in fact calmed down, I'll praise him and I'll say, "Good job of calming down. You can have that Coke," and I'll get him the Coke and I'll let him have it. And then I'll monitor him for the next 20 minutes or so and make sure, and praise him every few minutes to make sure that he's really calm. You know, I think you kind of learn how to become a parent from your own parents, and I had wonderful parents, but they didn't really prepare me for Corey. I had to have a lot of special training and a lot of special help. The 2 psychologists that trained me in this type of therapy were Dr. Ron Leaf and Dr. Mitch Taubman, and they helped me for almost 8 years. They have co-authored a book that goes into a lot more detail on this type of therapy than I've been able to go into just by doing this video. And I want to make that resource available for you if you are interested in purchasing that resource and getting the help that you need to train your autistic child. You can just click on the link below. They have another associate named Dr. John McCacken, and he has also written a book that has a curriculum that goes along with it. And so if you need help training your autistic child and you need that resource, you can just click on the link below. I have 2 more resources. One of them is to help your autistic child with social skills. As you are probably aware, social skills are an autistic child's biggest challenge. So if you need help getting the training you need to help your autistic child with social skills, you can just click on the link below. Have one more excellent resource that is good for both teachers and educators and parents, and it will help you incorporate this type of therapy in your child's school program. And so if you need help with that, you can just click on the link below for that resource. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for visiting my website, Parenting Solutions for Autism, and thanks for watching our video. Mr. Corey, can you say bye, see ya?
Bye, see ya.
Okay, there you go.